Football Then and Now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern game intertwined. Join us.
Hello, and welcome to Football Then and Now. This is episode 61. I'm joined by two Villa fans, Ant and Brady. Obviously, both been current and been on our show a few times with Stu and Brady with myself. So it's the first time myself with you, Ant. How's your day going? You sad that the Premier League's finished now, or are we happy with the rest?
I think I'm glad of the rest, especially the way the season ended, shall we say. Let's have a couple of months off.
Braids?
Could have finished better than what happened, but can't change the past, can you?
No, it's one of them, isn't it? We were obviously saying off air then about, Everton did you a favour, beating Newcastle, opening that fourth spot up, or fourth spot up for you, didn't we? And but it just didn't happen for you. But I watched your game back, obviously after the game's finished on YouTube, and explain to me how your goal was disallowed.
Because apparently he had control of the ball in his hands, even though it clearly shows that he doesn't. And the referee blew the whistle before it went in the goal, which meant VAR couldn't get involved. That's what the Premier League have come up with.
Okay. And your feelings?
Yeah, well, same. I mean, it was a brilliant goal. I was loving it. I was like, well, this is a goal. It'll go to VAR. It's going to be given as a goal. Commentary team was saying this is a goal. I think even VAR were looking in the background, and I think even they were thinking, well, this is a goal. But then I heard about he just said about the silly rule that because the whistle had blown, they can't get involved. Well, that's just ridiculous.
And the ref admitted to Emery after the game that he made a mistake.
I did hear that you've filed a complaint about the goal.
We filed a complaint, but it won't go anywhere.
Well, it's too late now, isn't it? At the end of the day, the season's over. It's finished. Like I say, sadly for you guys, you didn't get that Champions League spot because not say you both because you both support Villa, but your club lit up the Champions League this year. I think, for UK-based sort of supporters, Villa were like their second team, weren't they? Because if you didn't like the Arsenals, Liverpool, and anyone else who was in there, Man City, everyone just wanted Villa to do so well. And I think, out of all the teams that played PSG, you guys were very, very close to knocking them out in the second leg.
Well, so far, we're the only ones that beat them.
Yeah, well, I think Arsenal beat them in the league, but if you say knockout stages, you guys are the only ones that beat them there. Let's get to why Maria. So obviously we know that the Europa League not the Europa League, it's the Europa Conference. Europa League was last week. The Europa Conference League is tomorrow, and it's Betis versus Chelsea. I think it's been quite an easy run for Chelsea. The teams that they've played in this competition, they obviously won 6 out of 6. They've had Liga Warsaw, Copenhagen, Djurgården, and then obviously Betis for the final. You look at Betis, they've had Fiorentina, probably the most difficult one they've had. And everything that, it's not been a strong point, I suppose, for the Conference League for the bigger teams that have come in, because you've just seen Chelsea come in and absolutely, smash it way through. And I don't even think they played a full strength team throughout the whole of the competition. But just shows you obviously where the competition lies with the so-called sort of Champions League teams that obviously go in there when they've not done so well in the league. What's your thoughts?
You look at the Europa Cup as well. I mean, you had United and Tottenham in the final, who finished, 16th and 17th respectively in the Premier League?
I think United finished.
So I don't think, bar the Champions League, I think the other competitions, not taking it away from any team, but I just think the other ones have been poor. I think the new league structure in them hasn't worked as well as it did with the Champions League.
man. Your
Because there was
perspective.
Didn't they use the same structure? Sort of
Yeah.
top. Yeah. So yeah, it worked really well for the Champions League, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I did look at the earlier today when I knew we were going to talk about conference. I looked at the layout and I've seen how, as you mentioned, Chris, that Chelsea had topped the group,
Mhm.
like Liverpool did, but they went undefeated. Chelsea, didn't they? 6 out of 6.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Liverpool did 7 out of 8, didn't they? In the end?
Yeah.
Lost one game, did they?
Right at the end, they'd
Yeah.
already qualified top, hadn't they? But
Yeah.
I think Chelsea have only lost one game in this whole tournament, and that was during the knockout stages when it was over the 2 legs.
Yeah, and I think they already.
Yeah.
How many? I had the scores up before. I think it was.
Was it Legia Warsaw? I think
It could have been. Yeah, they did. There you go, because they beat them 3-0 away, and then they lost 2-1 at home. But at that point, if we're not going off aggregate per se, but Chelsea have already put 4 past them, haven't they? So they obviously had to score 5 to beat Chelsea. And you're not going to see Legia Warsaw put them 5 past Chelsea. As much as crazy things do happen in football, I just think this has been quite an easy competition for Chelsea. But what they've done is, I think, is pretty well done. Have done really well in the league, and they've done. And I said this to Stu when we were talking about the topics that we were going to talk. Us guys we would talk about today. So I think they flew under the radar a bit, Chelsea, this season in the Prem. And looking at the league, and they snuck into that Champions League spot. Because I was focused. Everyone was focused on Villa. They're focusing on Newcastle, Forest, Bournemouth. I don't think anyone really looked at Chelsea because of obviously the horrid couple of seasons they've had. But Maleska's obviously, he's propped the team he wants.
I think because of the start Chelsea had at the start of the season, I think nobody really paid attention to him that much. I mean, they were looking at Forest, how well they were doing, if Villa were going to get back into it, how Newcastle were doing, and Brentford and other teams. And like I said, Chelsea just sort of went under the radar, just quietly started picking up points here and there, and just started going up the league. And it was only the last couple of months of the season where Forest started drifting away that Chelsea sort of started putting that little win rate together. And I think with what they did in Europa and the league, sort of evened it all out.
I didn't even, like I say, they did fly under the radar because I didn't even realise Chelsea were as high up as they were. It's only when you're looking in the last few weeks, you go, hang on a minute, Chelsea's still in this Champions League spot here, or they're at least fighting for it.
Yeah.
Like, how did they get there? Because every time I've looked at a Chelsea game, they've been poor. They have not been great at all this season. They're either losing or drawing, and I don't even know where the results have been coming from. Obviously, they've done well in the conference because, as I said, they've won every game.
I think it's a case of, I think I read something the other day. I think they won is it 4 out of the last 4, or is it 4 or 5 out of the last 5? So they obviously snuck in that way. And because obviously a lot of teams, like you say, Nottingham Forest were on the ropey one. Yourselves in Newcastle were a bit up and down towards the end of the season, weren't you? You were consecutive as you were, beginning and in the middle of the season. And I think, obviously, say under the radar, they've just swooped in and obviously taken the 4th spot. Which, I suppose for Chelsea fans, it's a big deal because, like I said, they've had a torrid couple of seasons. They've bought, half the world's football players, stolen every wonder kid under Football Manager rules. That's a pain in the arse, but also good to see them in real life. And hopefully Chelsea can establish them or send them somewhere that they can be established. But yeah, they swap managers. They haven't really found the manager until now. And he's done a great job. I just think, this is a good little cup for them to win. And it's good for a start from Wesker to obviously get that trophy, just like Ange did for Tottenham last week. maybe it'll progress Chelsea a bit more, and maybe it'll be different next season, depending obviously how much they spend again this summer. But with Chelsea, you don't know, who they're going to get rid of, to replace for these other players they're going to get in. Obviously, Delap's been rumoured. He's been rumoured for a fair few clubs, hasn't he, so far, before obviously the season ended. I want to go to Betis because we have to give them a bit of rub of the green. We obviously all know that Anthony was loaned to Real Betis, and from what I see, obviously by watch La Liga, he's done extremely well. He's fit perfectly in the Betis system. It seems to me that obviously there was a big issue going on at United, and obviously he was an issue in regards of his attitude, supposedly. Obviously, I'm not a United fan, so I can't really put my finger on what the actual issue is with Anthony at United. But there's a lot going on at United, isn't there? From boardroom to managers getting changed constantly. But he got loaned out to Betis. He's gone there. He's scored a good couple of goals. He's been sent off a few times as well, but that's his demeanour and that's the way he's always on that, borderline of aggression. Do you feel like, obviously we spoke about Chelsea then, but do you feel Betis could upset Chelsea come the final tomorrow? Either of you jump in.
I think Betis are going to be their biggest challenge in this competition. Okay. And I truly think if Betis are on their game, they could sneak it if Chelsea aren't careful. I mean, Chelsea they've got a hell of a squad.
Yeah.
But so have Betis. So it's up in the air, but Chelsea can't go in there thinking, it's Real Betis. It's going to be a pushover. Because we all know what happens when teams do that. Especially in a final like this is going to be.
But it's one game, isn't it? Anything can happen in one game.
So
I agree, Brady. I'm with you. I mean, really, I've got Chelsea down on paper to win. But like you say, you can't count Betis out. Anthony's been on fire since he's been there.
Yeah.
You kind of forget that he played for United because he's played so well now since he's been there. It's the same. It's actually you're talking about players being shipped out of Man U. They've all been doing well, haven't they? Rashford at Villa, McTominay, all them players who either got sold or loaned out. They've all been thriving elsewhere.
Which I think shows you the state of Manchester United at the moment, and it's not a knock on the players that are still there because they've still got world-class players. They've still got game changers. But for whatever reason, what's ever going on in the back of the house, you guys as well as us can contest how bad a backroom can really dissolve confidence and destroy a football team if you've not got it set up. And, you guys went down because of a dreadful chairman that spent too much money and it was disarray in the boardrooms. This almost happened to us on several occasions, but managed to, hold on, the last couple of games, the last couple of seasons. But obviously United are going through the same thing, even though that, you've got people there with bags full of money, but it just doesn't seem to be clicking. But as you said, Ad, McTominay and scored an absolute cracker for Napoli on the weekend, for them to win the title. Absolute cracker. You would never see him do that in the Premier League. But obviously, Conte has obviously stepped him up a bit.
Conte's had him playing in a more advanced position.
Well, there you go, then.
Which is how he plays for Scotland. Conte looks at how players play and how they play for their national team if they're in it, like McTominay is. McTominay for Scotland is more of a forward player. So Conte looked at that and went, well, I'll try that. And it's worked.
Yeah.
I mean, you say about United, all these players, like Ant said, Rashford came to us, had a good second half to the season. Anthony went to Real Betis, had a good season. McTominay, Napoli, good season. And if Ten Hag was such a bad manager, like they were saying he was, why has he just walked into the Leverkusen job?
Well,
why would they trust him to take over what Alonso had done?
It's a good question. I don't think being sacked for Manchester United necessarily is bad rep for you, because I think a lot of board members in other clubs, say from Leverkusen, would have looked at the fact how bad things are going on at Manchester United, have made it difficult for Ten Hag. I'm not saying that Ten Hag would have been any better under a much better board and more structure and the players he was trying to sign, but the players he wanted, he didn't necessarily get. You look at he was desperate for Frankie de Jong, wasn't he, in his first season? That was the player he wanted. And I think if he got that, then maybe he could have moulded United around Frankie de Jong the way that he wanted United to play, the sort of Ajax way, where Frankie de Jong is the anchor for everything else. But obviously that didn't happen. And it just didn't work out for him. But it's a difficult one to say. Some managers can have a really bad season or a bad couple of seasons at one club, go to another club and like that league up. It's the way it can be. It's just a difficult thing, when clubs are having such a bad, like I say, bad disarray in the back of house, and it really conflicts with, the managers, the players, everything coach-wise, and it's just that horrible, negative, sort of toxic atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for United, and I'm not slating United, not dissing United. I mean, I've got family who are United fans, I've got mates who are United fans, but it seems to have been a gradual downfall since Fergie left.
Yeah, I can say.
I mean, we've all heard the rumour that Fergie was the one that handpicked David Moyes to take over from him. We all know David Moyes didn't get the time at United that he needed to rebuild that squad, because even Ferguson said it's going to take at least 2 or 3 seasons to build a team to challenge again, because they had so much of the old players that were going to be leaving. And they've drifted through. Yeah, they've won cups here and there. They've drifted through. And then these lot have come in, put money into it, but the Glazers are still saying yes or no to everything. And I think a lot of players and managers and staff don't like the fact that they've still got their finger on the button on what happens at that club. Ineos they can't do anything.
But the debt doesn't help, does it? Either, you know what I mean? That looming debt that United have had, since the Glazers took over. They bought the club and used the finance from the club to buy the club, and then put United in massive debt. But United make a lot of money now. Out of all the clubs in the Premier League, United do make the most money just over Liverpool. That's probably what keeps them afloat. But you got to hope that Amrin's given the summer to buy players he wants. There's no interference. But anyway, this isn't about Manchester United. We are not Goldridge. No. If you want that, United Stands on YouTube. Go watch that. Obviously, we'll go back to the Conference League, because that's what I wanted to start off with. So obviously we've discussed about 2 teams. I think we're all pretty unanimous that Chelsea are going to win. So I'm going to push both of you for a scoreline for tomorrow. And Brady, whoever wants to go first, throw your scoreline out.
On Brady.
2-1 Parma to score first.
Oh, I can't believe you said 2-1. I was thinking exactly the same. 2-1. No idea on who's scoring now, because I don't even know if Parma's going to score. He's so off form at the moment.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. I think I was probably going to go with 3-0 for Chelsea.
Ooh.
I know, but you know what? The Europa League bored me to death, and I did say on this show, and they all of them poo-pooed me, and I did say it would be a dull game, and by God, it was a dull game. But it never works for English teams when they both reach the final against each other. It just becomes a Premier League match, and it's dull. Where English teams against a European team, there's a bit more space for things to happen, and I think Chelsea will want to win this cup to cement, a new beginnings. I think after all the seasons they've had, so they can push on. And yeah, we'll see tomorrow, and then we'll see who's right anyway. So obviously, wrap that up with the Europa League. So I'll move that away. Obviously, we discussed very briefly. I know you went through Stuart and stuff. The Premier League obviously being ended on Sunday. Is there any particular? I have not asked you these questions before the show, but is anything that stands out before we go into what we've picked, players, managers, and goals and stuff? Is there anything that particularly this season, Ant, that's jumped out at you, that shocked you, and surprised you how it's been different this season compared to others?
Definitely. There's probably a few things really. I'd say Liverpool winning the league with a new manager. I know they'd already got the squad, but I didn't expect them to win the league. I thought they'd be top 4 back in the Champions League. That's one that shocked me how dominant they were, especially at the start. I know they've dropped off a bit, but they've really only dropped off since they've won the league, haven't they? They've been unstoppable otherwise. And maybe I would say Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup, considering did they finish about 11th in the end, I think?
They finished 12th. They finished above us.
But they were dominant in our game at Wembley. They were really good as well against City, I thought, in the final. That shocked me. A team like Palace winning the FA Cup. It's not one of your usual sort of teams, is it? The Man U's, your Man Cities. So I'd say those two things, really, for me.
Right.
How poor City were after Rodri's injury. They just seemed to... I don't know what happened to them. They just went bad, and I've never seen a Pep Guardiola side ever like that. And the other one would be how well Forest have played this season.
Yeah.
Compared to last season, just avoiding relegation, to fighting for a Champions League spot for most of the season, and only the past, I'd probably say 6 or 7 games where they started to drift off. But I think those two things for me, Liverpool winning the league, yeah. Not taking anything away. Like Ant said, they've got a brilliant squad. Arne Slot came in, didn't really change much to what Klopp had already installed there. But I think Arsenal, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. It's all, to me, until they get a striker in there, they're always going to finish second. And I think because of how poor City played throughout the season, and I'm not taking it away from Liverpool, they had a hell of a season, they dominated, but would they have won it if City were on their game like they have been the past 10 years or so?
It's a difficult one to say. If you said, like, if you're saying the scenario of Rodri not being injured, I still think there was issues going forward, wasn't there? Haaland, I think, as much as he's prolific and he's hit so many records already in the Premier League at such a small time in the Premier League. He can't do it on his own. And I think when they sold Alvarez and not getting a backup, when Haaland wasn't playing, or to give Haaland a break maybe, so he could recover and focus again. There was a lot of pressure, wasn't there, on him? And the defense-wise, it also shocked me. Diaz has always been steady, but obviously he didn't. He looked very unsteady. We've seen teams that would break Man City, especially in counter-attacks. It was shocking to see, Man City, being countered against, because usually they're extremely good on the ball. But as you said, Rodri obviously is a important cog to the Pep Guardiola sort of formation and style. But there you go. We'll move on. So I'm going to start. What am I going to start with? I'm going to start with players. I obviously Stuart asked you, Ant, from me. Brady, I spoke to you personally. You thought your best player in each position. So obviously goalkeepers being first, and I know Ant, me and you have picked the same. So we'll let Brady go first. But Brady, you picked Marcels, didn't you? Marcels.
Yeah, I just think I think for Forest, he's had a really good season. He's dragged them through games. He's pulled off some crucial saves for him. He's driven them forward. I just think, I mean, I could have gone with Pickford. I could have gone with David Raya, but I just feel Matt Sells in his first real season, is it, or second season for them? I think he's just been an outstanding keeper. I mean, a lot of the old guard, so your Pickfords, your Reyes, your Martinez, Allison, Anderson, the list goes on. I just think out of all the keepers, I think he's just been a standout keeper for me.
And that's a fair comment. Matt Sells obviously was at Newcastle in his earlier days, didn't quite work out for him. Obviously went away, come back to Forest, and he's done well. And I think Forest were looking for a keeper after they obviously wanted Dean Henderson to stay, didn't they? And then he got that bad injury on loan, and obviously ended up at Palace after that. But Matt Sells, no, he's done really well. But you've got to obviously give credit to the defence of Nottingham Forest and how well disciplined that Nuno has really had them going this season, and not really conceding many goals as well. You've got to understand that, going from being 17th and on the verge of being relegated, but pulling it back in the last couple of games, just like we did really, and then go from that to a fantastic season. They were fighting second, third, fourth, and they stuck around there, and the whole team fantastic. But they did buy. I know they bought a load of players when they first come up, but some of the players that they bought, once everything was figured out and they had a manager that could actually play football and get a formation correctly, like Nuno has, the players that they bought have started to come in much better. You got to look at Ngala, isn't it? From United, the winger, brilliant. Hudson Odoi, it's been brilliant. And then you can't knock Chris Wood. It's like a second coming of Jesus, isn't it, with Chris Wood? It's like, the guy under Dyche, he was a pain in the arse, but you'd get the odd goal in unsettled defences because how tall he was. And Nuno at Forest, he's been absolutely prolific. He's a guy he's in his latter stages of his 30s. He's not a fast-paced player, but he uses what he's got, and that's technique, his size, and the ability to bully defenders, and score goals, and not just one a game. He's getting two. I don't think he's got a hat-trick this season, but, he's been very close to. But, the whole team itself, you've got to, hats off to Nottingham Forest and the season they've had. Obviously, like yourselves, it's a disappointment that they couldn't manage, to close on that Champions League spot for being in it for so long. I suppose it feels like a loss, doesn't it? In a way, you guys would understand that too. After lighting the Champions League up, you want to never go with it. And, I can't really understand that. We were only in the qualifiers and we got ripped off by Mr. Cleaner. Anyway, there's Matt Sells. That's Brady's pick. And
good pick, Brady. I've got to be honest, before you move on to mine, I had Matt Sells down on my list. I wrote them down, and then I was just like, oh, it's a tough one. So Matt Sells was also there. He was my second choice. But obviously, I went with Jordan Pickford, England's number one. And what a great season he's had again, to be fair. Especially since Moyes has come in. I think Pickford's had a lot more clean sheets, hasn't he? I looked at the stats earlier, and I think he's one clean sheet under Matt Sells. I think Matt Sells had the most of the season, if I'm right.
Yeah, he did, yeah. And I think it was Pickford, Matt Sells, and then I think it was Reyes, wasn't it, underneath that as well?
What I like about Pickford...
I think he needed one or two clean sheets to get the Golden Glove. David Raya.
Yeah, he's another good shout. But what I like about Pickford is it's just his presence in the box. He's like our Martinez as well. I just think, in the box, he has got this presence. He's loud. He shouts to his defenders. He's got the ability to save penalties, as we've seen. One that stood out for me was the Haaland penalty save when you went up to City and you drew 1-1.
Should have been.
That one, I cheered that like it was a goal because I played FPL and some of the guys had Haaland as captain and I didn't even have him in the team. So like that for me was like, so the penalty save. He's got ability for the long ball assists as well, hasn't he? I think he's had a couple of them again this season as well.
I'm going to agree with everything you just said there. Being an Evertonian, I think, as Evertonians have seen Pickford, every game, and obviously we do contest how good he is, even though he has his detractors, which is pretty much the media, always have something bad to say about Jordan Pickford, which baffles me that, there's another England player coming up as a goalkeeper, and he's going to dethrone Pickford. But yet Pickford's been England's best goalkeeper for over a decade. And, and he's also broken records as a goalkeeper for England. And say what you want about Pickford, and you said about penalties. There's been no better penalty saver for England than Jordan Pickford. It's the consistency. It's the saves he makes, which are some of them are incredible, which he does not get enough justice for. Yeah, okay, he's a bit crazy. You do see him stick his tongue out, and he likes to wind up, opposition, or especially Newcastle fans. And he enjoyed his song at St James's Park on Sunday, being sung loud and proud by us Blues, in front of all the Geordies. I think he absolutely loved that. But he's been consistent for a long time, and what people don't realise, who don't watch Everton enough and see what he's done for Everton, is he's kept us in games. And you can say Doucouré's goal against Bournemouth kept us up. Charleston, Dominic Calvert against Palace, when we were 2-0 down and we brought it back to 3-2. It's been Pickford has pulled us out of games where any other keeper could concede that and we would have lost the game. But it's the consistent and the movement and knowing when to save. A hard shot. I think the easier shots he does struggle with from time to time. He makes magnificent saves, but he pulls Everton out of tight spots quite regularly. And just like I say, I don't think he gets enough credit within British football, because if he played for Arsenal, United, City, I can't say Liverpool because it distresses my brain to think of him red, but you know what I mean? He'd be like a god. He would be if he played for a bigger team, and that's frustrating. But I love Pickford, and there's a reason why he is one of the best in the Premier League. If I'd say he's just below Alisson, I still think Alisson's the best keeper in the Premier League, and I think you've got Martinez, Raya, Pickford, and Alisson. The top 4 best goalkeepers in the Premier League. Sal's obviously had a good season, but I'm thinking of goalkeepers that have been consistent for a fair few seasons that you can put in the top 4 or 5. But yeah, I'm glad you picked Pickford though, and I was like, oh, I don't really want to pick Everton players, but the certain positions, I think that certain players for Everton really did shine.
I thought you understood like that one.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's good. It's good that people other than myself and Stuart, and obviously all of us Evertonians, other people are looking at Pickford and giving it positive instead of the negative that you get from the media.
Oh God, yeah, definitely.
There you go. England's number 1. So, Brady, I'm coming back to you. Defender, you picked him.
Cucurella.
Why do you pick him?
I just think he's had this season. He's had a brilliant season for Chelsea and for Spain. I just think he went to Chelsea. He just sort of lost it when he first went there, and this season he's gone under the radar as well. along with the whole of Chelsea.
Mhm.
He's been quite consistent for him with the assists, with just defensively. I just think he's been quite solid going forward and defending. I think his confidence has come from playing with Spain, and he built that back up. They trust him in the Spanish team. So Chelsea sort of thought, oh, let's see what he can do. Let's give him some trust. And he just proved consistently he's probably been one of the outstanding left backs of the Premiership season, really.
I'd say.
I mean, I could have gone.
This price tag is what I'd say going back to his first season at Chelsea. I think it was the price tag and the pressure and obviously the unfolding situations going on at Chelsea. I think is why he struggled at the beginning. But I do agree what you're saying. Yeah,
he's been popping in with a few goals as well.
I mean, I could have gone with Van Dijk.
Listen, Tarky, right? If you look at the defense stats board, the Tarky's above Van Dijk. Just may I add that? Thank you very much. Van Dijk is a world-class defender. I won't take that away, but it's good to see Tarky up there, with the best. Is there anything else you want to say, Braids? Is there Kooks? Is that it for Kooks for you?
No, that's it.
Okay. And I believe, is this your pick?
It is, mate. Mikalenkovic. So, because I didn't go for Matt Sells, I felt like I needed to choose someone from Forest in the defence. Now, again, Aina's there in that picture as well. Now, he started off well until he got injured. But what I like about Mikalenkovic, apart from his size, is his goal threat as well. He's been popping in with the goals. Obviously, he's got all them clean sheets, the same ones as Matt Sells. He's detrimental to that defence. I think Forest dropped off the ball a little bit with the injury to Aina, and I think that's when things started to go downhill for them. But until then, it was clean sheet after clean sheet after clean sheet. And I just had to pick someone with the good stats like Mikalenkovic has got this season. Now, I don't know him prior to his time at Forest. Obviously, I've only been following football for a few years, as you probably know, Chris.
Yeah.
But from his time at Forest, I thought he'd been brilliant.
Well, it was a bargain for them. I'm surprised that no one picked him up in the summer because he was a free. He was on a free. I'm sure, obviously, clubs were looking at him, but obviously no one pulled the trigger. Not quick enough anyway, because Forest backed him, and I totally agree. He's been fantastic. This is what we were talking about when Brady said about Matt Sells. He's had players like that in front of him to protect the goal. Early on. Well, actually, it's longer than early on. You would say all the way till probably April, end of March, maybe, where the cracks started sort of forming at Nottingham Forest, where maybe they were tired because it's been a long slog. They've performed so well in so many games, and it's never been, and not being up in the top of the league and understanding, the pressures to finish fourth, third, second, third, can get to teams and players that have not been up there because everyone's coming for those positions. There's a lot of pressure coming towards your club and players. But yeah, he's been fantastic. And as I said, what a bargain, a free transfer. Obviously, fees do change hands with free transfers, mainly, signing on fees and agent fees and what have you. But an absolute bargain for Forest that was, and he's done really well. It'd be interesting to see the second season for Forest and how all the players they do get and whoever they do get in the summer, if they can do one better, maybe this coming season. But we'll see. Well,
they're going to have to balance Europe as well, aren't they? So we know how tough that has been on us the last two seasons. So they're going to have to get some more depth in their squad as well.
I'm sure they'll spend some money. Obviously, I don't think they're going to go as crazy as they did at the beginning of the adventure in the Premier League. That was something different. but you know what I mean. I feel like they've got the core of what they want and what style of players they need. You can see some changes. I've heard rumours that they're looking at Calvert-Lewin. Don't forget Calvert-Lewin's contract is coming up. There's nothing on Everton or himself coming to any agreement to stay. I know we've been talking to him, but I can't imagine we're offering him anything near what he wants. So, you know what I mean? If he could stay fit, maybe Forest could be an interesting move for him. But again, that's something I think we can always talk about more so towards the window opening and rumours when they really do get going. I know some are out now, but when they start get going, I think the show will be better then once we understand who all the clubs are going for. Obviously, I'm going to choose what I picked here. And obviously, I know Liverpool have been looking at him. A host of the clubs have been looking at Kirkez. I just think he's been absolutely fantastic in a Bournemouth team, just like Forest, but obviously dropped off a bit earlier on than Nottingham Forest did. But I just think he's been absolutely fantastic at defending, attacking, controlling the wings, the assists he's got in there, the pace. I just think he's a player that I think a lot of top clubs after this season are going to look at. And I think Bournemouth may struggle to keep Kirkez, especially if Liverpool are interested. And I know Frimpong is going there, but this is another player they've looked really, long at. And I think they've scouted pretty much all season for Kirkez, like I suppose a lot of teams have. But he's been fantastic. Another surprise for me, really. I didn't know much about Kirkez until he came to the Premier League. And normally I'm quite good with players that do come into the Premier League, but this one I didn't know much about. But watching him for Bournemouth, guys, he's been absolutely fantastic. And it's another one of those sort of hidden gems that a team gets hold of and flourishes.
They're going to want to keep hold of him, but because I think they're already losing Dean Hodgson, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they're going to struggle to keep hold of him. There's a lot of interest in Kirkez.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I think if Liverpool are serious about him, and I know speaking to a lot of friends, obviously we all have of Liverpool fans, they all seem to think that Liverpool will go in for him at some point in the window, which would be a shame for Bournemouth. But they have picked out some really good players. Seen Solanke go, you thought maybe they would have struggled, but they haven't. Justin Kluivert, who to be honest with you, I had a really, since Ajax when he was in Italy, wasn't, it was very hit and miss, very flat. He's come to Bournemouth. His first season, he was okay, but this season he's been fantastic. I'm thinking, is someone, other teams going to start looking at him? He could do. We had John Scotland last week for the Europa League final, and he said that he'd be interested in seeing Justin Kluivert at Tottenham. It's holding on to these players and building around them, but it's difficult when the big teams start calling and they can offer more money. And, it's just a struggle to fight against them. Braids, you got anything?
Oh, that's the thing. They've already lost. Bournemouth have already lost one. Is it one of their defenders? I can't remember his name now.
Is that what I was saying about Hodgson?
I know. Yeah. They reckon he's already gone. So I think the problem with Bournemouth is they get these good players in and they sell. Even though they got the money to keep them, they sell. And I think that could affect them next season if they lose another two of their top performers this season. I think that'll affect them next season.
Do you not think they would have preempted this, scouted a bunch of players, and maybe thought, right, okay, if Kirkez goes, they've got, like every club I'm assuming must do, is plan A, plan B. For one player goes, that this player comes in to replace. Do you not think that they might have something up their sleeve? Maybe not as good as Kirkez possibly, but, someone that can build it and,
I mean, they always seem... Yeah, I mean, they always seem to have somebody waiting in the wings ready to come in. But it's just that chance, that diamond in the rough, are they going to get the same as what they've sold? Because we've seen teams do that before and it's never worked. I mean, this season it's worked for Bournemouth, but is it going to work again next season and the season after? Can they carry on doing that? Selling their top performers for profit to bring in these B or C players and do exactly the same as what they did the season before. I mean, we've seen teams do it and it backfires. Brighton have always been very good with their scouting system. Yeah. But they were the same for a while. They bring these players in that nobody had heard of, sell them on for a big profit, and then they'd have somebody that you never thought of, well, never even heard of, from a country that you never even knew existed.
Yeah.
Playing third division in that league, and they come in and they're absolutely amazing. But then even Brighton got to that point where they're like, no, we're going to stop. We're not going to do that anymore. Doing it. It's affecting us in the league. So I think Bournemouth just need to stick to their guns with some of their top performers and just say, no, not unless we get top dollar for them, not going anywhere.
I think you'll find, clubs like that are going to be stubborn now. The days of going to the Championship, and I'll use Cahill for an example because he was only 1.5 million when we bought him in 2004. You're never going to get a player like that in the Championship, and there's a fair few, I think, that can make the grade up this coming season from the Championship. Obviously, we're not going to go into the players this episode, but I think clubs are very stubborn to sell now. And if they do sell, and I think, again, I'm going to use Brantford for example, you're going to have to pay top dollar and you're going to have to pay the valuation the club wants. Not what you think or anyone else on social media or Sky Sports think. It's what the club feel like he's worth and what he's worth to the club. And I think a lot of clubs are doing this now to the bigger clubs. And I think that's just a staple of what I feel like Bournemouth will do the same again. And I think they'll make... Say if Liverpool do go in for Kirkes, they're going to have to pay 60, 70 million just because how good he is and how good he's been and how valued he is at Bournemouth. And then we've lost Brady in that. I'm sure you'll pop back up at some point. So I'm going to jump into midfield. And am I assuming you picked Tielemans?
That was me. Yeah, that was me. Again, another tough one in midfield. I'm not being biased now by picking a Villa player, but
no, it's fine.
I am a bit. No, Tielemans has been brilliant this season. But when he first came to Villa, I wasn't certain what to think of him. He'd just come from Leicester, hadn't he?
Yeah.
I don't think he really fit in straight away. But as soon as he started getting the starts, I mean, he is our 90-minute man now. Every game, didn't matter if it was Champions League, Premier League, his set pieces have been brilliant. That's why I picked him. It's the set pieces, the set piece goals. Obviously, we do a lot of work with Austin McPhee. They haven't been so great on set pieces the back end of the season. But if we're talking start of the season, Tielemans has popped in with the odd goal. He's one of my favourite players from Villa now. Which is mad considering, like I say, when we first had him, I was just like, oh, why have we got him? But sorry, Yuri, I love you now.
I like how he's holding up the Football Then and Now logo as well. I appreciate that, Yuri.
Oh, he is, isn't he?
Yeah. Brady, obviously you can chime in here because, like Ant, you're a Villa fan. What's your thoughts been on Yuri Tielemans since you brought him and come in, and especially this season? Do you agree with what Ant's saying?
I mean, I thought he was brilliant at Leicester. I liked him at Leicester. And he came in and he was sat behind Dougie Luiz, who was playing out of his skin at that point. So he just couldn't get a game because Dougie was just playing so well. And when we sold Daggy, a lot of Villa fans were like, "Who are we going to get to replace him? Who are we going to?" And I'm sat there thinking, we've got somebody perfect there to replace him. He just needs game time. And because he's been getting those games, he is Mr. Consistent. I mean, John McGinn is our captain, but I would give it to Tielemans next season. Give John McGinn a break from it and give it to Tielemans. Because like Ant said, he's our Mr. 90 minutes. He's very professional. He's very football orientated. Same as McGinn. But I just think McGinn can be very hot-headed at times, where Tielemans is just sort of shuts it off, shuts it down straight away. And I just think the captaincy, it takes a lot out of certain players. I think McGinn's play, since he's been captain, has dropped off slightly, not massively, just slightly, because he's got to focus on other things as well. So I would give it to Tielemans. I mean, my pick for midfield, I nearly went the same as Ant, but
while you're going there with your pick, I'll throw him in now because good transition. But transition from one Villa player to another. Again, with both of your picks, with the players you picked from Villa, this man has been absolutely brilliant for you. A fantastic signing, a bargain signing from Borough. Makes you think why City ever got rid of him, but absolutely fantastic, Morgan Rogers. Brady, do your thing.
I mean, I'd seen bits and pieces of him while he was at Middlesbrough. When I'd seen highlights from the Championship and things like that, I thought, yeah, there's something there. And then when it popped up on Sky Sports that we were interested in and we signed, I was like, there's got to be something Emery sees in him. There has to be something that he sees in him. And we all know what Unai Emery's like with his man management. He brought him in, took him under his wing, said, right, this is what I want you to do. Go show me what you can do. And for the size of him, because he's not exactly a small guy, the way he can hold and run with that ball, a lot of defenders and midfielders, they don't have a clue what to do with him. They see him run it. You'll see some of the most experienced defenders in the world, and literally they back off because they don't know how to take him. They don't know whether to go in on him, whether to let him go. It's just, for some, like you said, for the amount we paid for him from the Championship, are quite unknown to a lot of people, to have a good half a season, the one before, when we first brought him in that January, to the full season he's had this season, to break into that England squad that we all know is quite hard to break into, unless you play for certain teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially in midfield. I just think he's been... You could throw a stone in any direction, you're going to hit a very good midfield in that Premiership. But I just feel for how he came in and got the nod from Emery from the start, and what he's done for Villa in the league, in the Cups, in the Champions League especially, and what he's done for England, I couldn't overlook him.
No, and I don't disagree. Anything quick on Morgan before I move on to my pick, and then we move on to our final strikers?
I don't need to say anything else. I mean, Brady's covered all that. He's one of my favourites. I picked him, but I picked him as a forward because I see him as a forward more than a midfielder because he's normally always forward. But yeah, I mean, he's incredible. I'm so pleased we got him. I just hope we can keep him. Is my only concern.
I think you're okay. I don't. There are rumours that you guys have to sell again to appease PSR, but I'm not going to get into that because it's an absolute farce, and I'll get in trouble again for giving PSR a load of crap. Right, I'll go to my pick and I'll make this very quick. I had to pick an Everton player, but I'm sure people watching us or people who will listen to us on audio and you two here will understand why I have picked Iliman Jai. Been outstanding this season. He has pulled out some absolute special goals for Everton. You know, people think of him at Sheffield United when he was there, and he showed flair. Shame that he didn't come to Premier League that season. They got promoted. He wanted to go home to Marseille. It didn't work out. We managed to, you know, I feel like this is one of the signings of the season. But again, I'm going to be a bit biased because it's an Everton signing. But he's lit our team up. And I think he's one of those players that when he gets the ball and you're at the stadium, everyone stands up because you just don't know what he's going to do with the ball. But he's carried Everton up the pitch. His skills, his strength on the ball, breaking through defence. It's been something different that Everton have been needing and wanting for so long that, you know, he's absolutely outstanding. And I think, you know, at his age, and he's only young and he's in his early 20s, that he can get better and better. And I think under David Moyes, he's obviously come out the leash a bit more from Dyche's stay past, well, just past the defenders and hold on to whatever you can there. But David Moyes has taken the leash off just a bit, but allowed him to express himself. And you've seen since David Moyes has come in, that Iliman Jai has absolutely exploded with creativity and feels that freedom that he can have under David Moyes than he did under Sean Dyche. But he's been incredible. And like I said, he's got so much promise. I feel like, you know, obviously we need other players to help him and support him around the team. So it's not just him doing all the work. Obviously, I know that we're in talks now to keep Alcaraz, which I feel like, again, is a fantastic sign for Everton, because I think him and Alcaraz together in the wing and or a number 10 really well suited. Obviously, they just need to play a bit more together. But Iliman Jai's been absolutely fantastic for Everton. And if we could find another 10 of him, I'll pretty much be happy. But yeah, been great. All right, so I'm gonna
maybe nine, Chris, because you've still got Pickford then, haven't you?
Well, no, I said 10. We have 11 players, don't we? So Pickford's still keeping himself in goal, don't worry. Or he could be on the bench at least. I'm going to go, where are we going? So I'm trying to think, because these pictures are really low. No, these are goals we've picked. Are we going, you've picked Morgan Rogers. Is it Morgan Rogers you picked for striker, was it?
Yeah, because I had picked Isak as well. You see, I think the messages got a bit mixed up with Stu, so I threw Morgan Rogers in there as well. Because he does play up top quite a lot as well, doesn't he? So.
Well, you and Brady both picked Isak. So I think it's easier for one of you want to start. And if you want to start about your feelings and why you picked Isak, and then Brady, you want to chime in once that's done and, you know, express what you feel about him and why you've picked him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it quick because I know timings and everything. But Isak, he's the best striker in the Premier League this season. The goals, I mean, he is a proper number 9, isn't he? I'm not surprised why so many clubs are after him. Whether they'll get him or not, who knows? Because now, especially now, Newcastle have secured Champions League. They might be able to keep hold of him, but, you know, he takes the penalties. You know, he normally scores all of them. And I've seen what he did to the Arsenal guys. I mean, Saliba and Gabriel, 2 of the best defenders in the world. He ripped them apart. Both times in the Premier League, and he did it in the cup as well, didn't he? The two-legged cup. They didn't know how to handle him. Thankfully, we managed to keep him quiet when he came down to the Villa. But no, he's the best. He's the best striker in the Premier League this season, I think. And the stats, I think the stats will probably show that as well with the goals.
Yeah, they back him up massively. Right? Quick one on it. Why are you picking?
I mean, I've gone with Isak as well. I mean, Ant's covered it all there. I just think this season, with Haaland being injured, I just think he's been the outstanding striker for the Premiership. I mean, there's been some quite very good strikers this season, but I just think he's just been Mr. Consistent all the way through. And I think if Newcastle lose him, that's a very big loss for them.
Yeah, I do agree. But I also think it's going to take a bit of money to pull him out of Newcastle. And don't forget, I mean, they've got all the money in the world. They don't need to sell. I don't know if they need to actually. I can stop myself there. I don't know if they need to sell for PSR reasons either. I've only heard that you guys do. But obviously, there was a few of us, obviously, last summer, well, just before the window opened, I had to do a few deals. I think we got the better one off you guys than you did off us, but thanks for Tim. But yeah, I think he's been fantastic. He's one of those sort of players that I think was floating around the radar of teams when he was in Spain. Obviously, it didn't work out for him in Dortmund. He went to Spain. It did and it didn't. I think he does have his injuries, as you've seen at Newcastle. Obviously, Newcastle did take the punt, and I think it's worked out really well for him. I do think they need another striker because he does have his injury problems, as I just said. But if you've got him up front and he's fully fit, you're gonna back him to score every time, aren't you? Really. I'm gonna obviously go to mine now, and I picked better. Look. Jokes. I picked Salah. I'd love to put Beto in there, but there's only one, I think, striker that's for me, other than probably Isak, and I put Salah as striker because it alternates, doesn't it, at Liverpool? But you can't ignore what Salah has done for Liverpool since he's been at Liverpool. I know, obviously, last season under Klopp, towards the end, it looked a bit iffy, didn't it? But since Slot's come in, Slot's changed a bit. He's made Liverpool a bit more organised, not so, what would I would say, ultra aggressive like Liverpool were under Klopp, where it was 100 miles an hour, wasn't it, with Liverpool in the first 40-odd minutes of it, and they would get the job done 9 times out of 10, where Slot's a bit more calculated. And obviously using a number 10, where a lot of teams don't use a number 10 anymore, unless you're Everton and you've got Decore there. But what a player. He's obviously signed to stay at Liverpool, which I was a bit shocked by. I thought them in the Premier League this season, he's won it all at Liverpool now. Maybe he was going to try his hand going to Saudi, but obviously he wants to stay and obviously break more records, because he broke Thierry Henry's record now, I think, for assists. He's been absolutely fantastic, and I can't gloat too much because, again, it pains me when it's a Liverpool player, but I have to give credit where credit's due. This season for Liverpool, he's been absolutely fantastic, and he's scored all sorts of goals like he always does, and he's just been brilliant. And I love to see how he gets on next season. I'll say this: I like when teams have the best players, so the Premier League has all the best players in it, so we can watch the best players play in the Premier League.
Yeah, I'm glad he's staying in the league. He's good to watch, isn't he?
Yeah. Right. I'm gonna just go straight to forget the odd managers. If you want to just give a quick one with your manager of the season, just very quickly, guys, and then we'll just move quickly on to our goals of the season.
Emery. No words needed.
I'm the same.
You're both going with Emery.
Yeah, I mean, it was a toss-up between Emery and Slot, but I just feel Slot inherited a very good side. They were always up there challenging when he took over. I just feel, they won the league. Amazing in his first season. I just think with what Emery's done at Villa, getting us up there, Champions League, running the cup, I just think, for me, it had to be Emery.
And I think that's it's a fair shout. I think there's been a few we could have all gone for. We could have gone for Bournemouth manager. We could have gone for Nuno from Nottingham Forest because how good and how well they've done. But obviously, I agree with Emery. I think he came over to take you over after Steven Gerrard, who obviously pissed a lot of your players off because a lot of them didn't want to stay.
Pissed a lot of friends off as well, I think.
Yeah, he did. Well, that's Steven Gerrard, isn't it? But he's done a fantastic job, and it proves why Arsenal should have kept him, really. Again, it's a different type of job. I get that. But what he's done for you and the players he's brought in, I've never imagined you'd get Asensio playing for you. And that was, when you signed him on loan in January, I was dead chuffed for you because he's absolutely fantastic player, Asensio. Like you say, Rashford, great signing. I don't think you guys would ever imagine you'd have Rashford playing for you. I know it's only for half a season, but still, it was great to see that players from other clubs, and I'm talking about their top players, are looking at Villa and looking at Emery and thinking, I can play under him and play for Villa, which is great, and it's great to see. Hopefully, you obviously maybe pull Asensio back in for permanently. I don't know about Rashford. I don't know what the plan is there, but I know he's on a lot of money, and it's a big thing for yourselves to spend 40 million and what is he on, like 300,000 at United. It's a very difficult one to maneuver that, and I can't see at his age he's going to want to cut wages. But I agree why you picked him. Obviously, this is my pick. But I'm just going to say obviously we all know who it is. I'm just going to say again why I picked him is because Chelsea under the radar have been, they've been hit and miss again. Like Ant said, they haven't been terrific. They haven't blown anyone out of the water. But I think what he's done is he's got Chelsea back to some stability, and he's got a team working now. You haven't got 20 players coming out, 20 players coming in. No one knows their positions or played with the person next to them because they're constantly changing over and over again. He's managed to get the players he wants in the positions he wants. He's got rid of the players he doesn't want. Obviously, Sterling, he will be back in the next week or so. But I'm assuming he'll try and force that one back out again. But the players he's brought in have been great. Nicholas Jackson, he's been absolutely fantastic. Cole Palmer, okay, not been towards the end of the season, been brilliant, but overall, Cole Palmer's been a fantastic signing for them. Brady mentioned about Cucurella. It's been fantastic for him. And again, Ant, you said about him chipping in goals. I think the Chelsea are getting their confidence back. You're going to see that arrogant team maybe start to show themselves again. And obviously, if they win tomorrow against Real Betis, it's another trophy for Chelsea's cabinet that, which is ever growing anyway. And I just think he's done fantastic for them. I wasn't sure when obviously going from there City to Leicester to Chelsea, because Chelsea just at that point were a bit of a crazy team, but he's done fantastic. And I'll leave it at that. To be honest with you, I did want to go David Moyes for this one, by the way, but I thought I'll put too much effort in, and everyone's going to say I'm too biased, so I thought I'll go somewhere else. So goals of the season. Brady, I'm going to go with you and me first because we seem to have picked the same one in a game that we...
Yeah, we had to get a goal against Everton there somewhere, didn't we?
We absolutely threw this game away because I thought we were in good control. And before you scored your second, we hit Calvert-Lewin was one-on-one, and Calvert-Lewin's not been fantastic this season, hit the bar, and then you guys just took over then, and it was just stupid, silly mistakes by Keane and stuff at the back. Watkins got through, and then what could you do with that Duran goal? It just, I had to clap. I watched it and clapped because it's one of those sort of goals you can't stop. It was a bullet, and when it left his foot, you knew straight away that was going in, and it was like, okay, that's just one of them. You should have been closed down if I'm going to be hypercritical. But the season he's had with you before he went to Saudi, he scored some important goals for you guys. Again, I'm sad to see him go. A young player like that shouldn't go to Saudi. He should be playing in the Premier League or somewhere in Europe and establish his name. But money, I suppose it makes the world go round, and it's, money for his family across in Colombia, isn't it? That he always wanted to help and look after. And I get all that, but I think the player like his quality should have been still in one of the bigger teams in one of the European leagues. But Brady, I'll leave it with you to give a quick assessment of this goal and Duran as a player.
I mean, like you said, you were fully in control of that game before all that happened. And Watkins with the second, and then that bullet from Duran. I mean, we saw it a couple of times the season before from Duran. I mean, those two quick fire goals against Liverpool at the end of the season, and then what he did against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. So Pickford shouldn't hold his head in shame that much for that goal, because he did exactly the same to Neuer, who is arguably one of the best keepers in the world.
Yeah.
So I just think for such raw talent, I don't know if it's his attitude or if he's just listening to people too much. That's the reason why he chose to go to Saudi. I mean, he said that he did it for his family, which the money he's getting thrown at, could you blame him? No. Should he have gone to one of the European top teams to craft his game? Yes. But also there was the pull of Mr. Consistent, I'm going to keep playing until I'm in my 80s, Mr. Ronaldo.
Anyway.
Who can say that they played and learned off Ronaldo at the age of 22, 23 years old, when you've got that raw talent there, and if he takes him under his wing, could be an absolutely ridiculous player, because he's young enough that he could play in Saudi for a few seasons and still come back to Europe and absolutely dominate.
I'm going to move you on there.
I just think he's just got that player.
I'm assuming this is your pick. You've gone with, well, obviously, we've all picked Duran. What a crazy time to be alive.
Yeah, obviously you can see which game. It's already been alluded to which game that is. I had picked another one. You probably won't have the graphic for it. I'll just quickly tell you. It was the Cole Palmer goal against Bournemouth. The one where he faked the keeper. That was my second pick. When I realised that John Duran was already in the conversation for tonight, I said Cole Palmer, Bournemouth.
Also, another goal on my mind was Cole Palmer. I was trying to sort of pluck out of my memory of goals going in the season. I think if I had longer, I probably would have picked something else. But the Duran goal stood out to me because how far away it was and how precisely, it went in the top corner and bins and stuff like that. It was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, that's our picks, and I hope everybody who's listened to us or have watched us live have agreed or disagree. Make a comment. Tell us who you think you could have picked. Managers, goal of the season, players in each position. Is there something that we missed that you want to point out? Happily comment or send me and Stuart a message. We'll happily raise the comments because we like comments from everybody. I want to say thank you guys for joining me today. Not the end of the season you wanted, but you've had a good season all in all. Hopefully the summer you get players in and things change even for better for you as well, so you can staple that Champions League spot down. I'll say nothing about Everton until I start seeing what I want to see, and I'm sure you'll see me and Stuart talk about it in the next month or so. I think Stuart's back with yourself, Brady, on Friday to talk Champions League final. So yeah, I want to say thank you.
Thursday or Friday, I can't remember what we had.
Right, there you go. Obviously, I'm in work, so I won't be on the claim speak now. I won't be on that episode anyway. Thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate it. Brady, I appreciate you coming on as well. You both come on quite a fair few times for us on Football Then and Now. I'll see you guys, most likely myself, next week. Stuart and Brady will see you at some point this week to speak about the Champions League and preview it. Ciao. I'll see you all later. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. See you, Brady.
See you later.
Take care, mate.
Football then and now, a fun look at football nostalgia and the modern